Okay, it's week 4 lab on creating a contact management database. Specifically starting out though, authentication to get into a website where folks have certain membership rights when they log in that guests do not. And this is what the page looks like when you download the source code from week 4. Has home page and about page. Links on the left. On the right is a login box. It's admin once it's been set up. And let's go ahead and log in. As soon as I log in, it says admin, you've logged in successfully with a logout link. Now I've added a new page here because I'm a member. When I click on that, now I have members page. Still have about and still have home. When I click log out, it's going to go to logout.php, log me out of the database, and redirect to index. Now if I manually try to go in to the URL up here and type in members, it'll check to make sure not if I'm logged in, which I'm not, and notice it redirected me back to index. Again, I'll do it one more time. And it redirected me back to index. All right, so in week 4, it had you download the beginning files, which have been updated to the new MySQLi. This one here on my website, it's a little bit different CSS around it, but does the same functionality. I did add a registration one in this one, which you do not have on yours, so don't worry about that one as yet. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this one here. So when you download the files this week, basically you're just going to look over the files itself. There is a notes that I recommend you reading. The screenshots referring to creating the database will look a little bit different because it was done on a Mac. But I do have in this week where it says under this notes members disregard creating your database username if you did one last week for the guest book. Either way, here's the steps for creating a database using the latest XAMPP MySQL. If you click on this one, it'll bring up a PDF of how to create a database username and database with the new PHP MyAdmin and XAMPP, so you can follow along with that if you did not create one last week. Okay, let's go over the code first. And this week, basically, you're just looking at the code, seeing how it works, and getting the hooks to get the database to load correctly. Now, we'll load up this PDF from the notes because towards the end of the PDF, there is instructions on what to do once you create the database. Create a config file, which by the way, the config file, if you created the guest book last week, is the same config file in the root of the lab folder. And this is the old MySQL connection. The new one, you'll remember, has the MSQLi in them. So make note of that when you're reading the notes, that this has been updated, which we'll go over in a second. So the config.php file is in the download actually for week 4 when you click on the source. It's already in there for you. But again, if you've done last week's, the config file is already in there. So I'll look at my XAMPP directory for my labs. Notice the config.php file here is the same one that was used last week. You're going to use it this week again as well. And that's a lot of times the case in PHP websites where you'll use the same config file because more than likely websites are going to be the database, just multiple tables within that database. So let's go to the bottom of that PDF for the members site. Goes over information you'll need to know as far as registration of sessions, so make sure and read the lab. So the downloading week is actually week 4 instead of week 3, and making sure you browse out to your week 4 directory, and specifically you have to manually type in createmembers.php, and you're looking for the week 4 directory in your labs folder. What this is going to do is create the table that we'll go over in a second that you'll need for the database to work. It's a one-time creation only, as it says here. And then once you've done that, browse and to the createmembers.php. You just browse to week 4 folder from that point on, and then you should be able to log in. And what I mean by browse is inside the week 4 folder, when you download it and put it in the labs directory, mine's again in the same directory as it was last week, XAMPP, htdocs, Web290 labs. So in the root of my labs folder, I have thus far weeks 3 and 4. So in 4 is where all the files are located, and there's the create members, which we'll go over in a second. That's going to be need to manually be browsed to create the table. It'll only be used once. And most of the times that's fairly common on a CMS website, content management system website, where databases need to be created. A lot of times you'll have pages that'll be in there, PHP pages that after it's installed, the developer will say, hey, make sure to go back and delete these files. This will be a file that could be deleted once an install is done, or create members website database is done. So let's go and get started as far as on the code side. On the index page, it's nothing special here, but we do have on most of the pages these first top 3 lines, which is an include statement to PHP Box, which I do want to look at. The PHP Box, what it's going to do is going to start out with a session start, and you'll find that in this week's notes, that session start holds and starts the ability to create session variables. Session variables are variables that can be used throughout your website during that session. It's heavily used on websites that utilize login, where you can remember a username and pass it throughout that website. Not the password, but the username, pass throughout the website. That way the website can give it the rights that it needs to see certain pages and such. So on this one, it's session start. It's holding in a placeholder for the index.php page, which we'll see why in just a second. Then it's holding the value of that page in a session called page. Then it's testing here. If the session variable my username is not set, it's going to include main.login.php. If it is set, it's going to include loginsuccess.php. So basically, if they're not logged in, the main login is going to go there. If they are logged in, the login success is going to go there. So let's look at the first one, main login. Main login looks like, if I can go back there real quick, this right here. This is what the main login looks like. It says member login, admin, so you'll know what to type in for the username password. It has a username password field and a login button. And that's what this does. And so it's just a basic table. It is got the member login, username, password. The username is in a text box with an ID or a name, my username. Password name is my password. And it does have a submit button here. And there is a form that's being submitted. So I'll highlight all of that. So there's the form. You'll notice going to the page check login.php. So when the user types in their username and password, it'll go to the check login page, which basically does what's called an OB start, which is buffering, no output set to the monitor, so there can't be any screen scraping or SQL injection. Session start, including your config file for database connectivity. Members page. Then my username from the post on the page before is plugged into my username variable. My password from the post is plugged into my password. My page is just the word page for right now. Then it says here on the next one, protect MySQL injection, we use what's called strip slashes, which strips any code-based information in that link, which what I mean by that is hackers can put in here, if they know what they're doing, SQL injection code like a delete statement or an insert statement for SQL or select all statement, and that's what that's referring to. What it'll do, if they do any type of code in that, the username or password field is going to strip it here in these two lines and plug in my username and password into that. Then here it's going to, again, do what's called a real escape string. Any type of return keys or backspace keys that are going to be used, it'll get rid of them there. Then it does a select all statement from the members table, where username is equal to my table or my username, and the member's password is correct as well. So username and password is checked here. It's connected here on the query. It's put in a array called right here, and when it's basically plugged into a word called count, a variable called count. Then if count is equal to 1, which should only be one record for that user, it's going to basically echo the page, then put in the username, header back to the page. And so what you're going to see on this one is, on the check login, it's going to redirect back to the page if it's correct. And what will happen is, we'll go back to the site here. Let's put in an incorrect one first. So I'll put in an incorrect one on wrong username and password. So it went to the check login page, and notice here on the if statement there is an else path, which you just saw on the screen, wrong username and password. Now let me put in the right one. Okay, it went to that same function, but this time instead of that, it did a header command back to the page that it came from, which in this case was the index page. And when we clicked on that, click login here. When this button is clicked on, it's going to send over to the form button is going to send over to, when it gets the session page, you say, where did that come from? If you go to the main login page, and let's go down further here. Username, name is my username. Password name is my password. And page, if I'm not mistaken, was done originally on the PHP box. And page is the index.php location. So that's done actually the first time when it's hit on the index.php page. Now the one page I've not went over yet and I wanted to start was a create members page. That's the one that you have to browse out to once your database is created, or you can confirm that your config file is correct from last week, all you need to do is go out to the week 4 lab folder, type in create members.php page, which I'll do that on mine to show you. And notice it says here admin user has already been added, ready to log in, because I've already done it once. But that's the page you'll go to first manually and type it in. Once you do that, you'll then be able to log in successfully. So let's go back to the code first for the create member. That's the first thing you've got to do before you start testing anything. It includes your config file. It's only to be run once. Okay. And it's creating a table called members, and it has a members ID that's an integer, members username, varchar32, password varchar32, members F name same, members L name same, members email same, varchar, except this one's 50, because some emails might be a little longer, text-wise or number-wise in length of characters. And then members phone, varchar12, primary key is made to be members ID. Then takes that members variable that has this create statement, the SQL create statement, takes it and puts it into the MySQL query command, or the iQuery command, which now has a DB connection, comma, members, which is going to be the query. So the iQuery, MySQL iQuery, now takes two parameters, which is a connection to the database and the query itself. So it says here, if there's no results, to that query here, when it queries the members, then it creates the username, inserts into members, admin and admin for the first user. Okay. Else it creates the table members first and plugs in there. Once it creates it, inserting into members, admin as well. So you'll notice here on the first one, if it does exist, basically this is what you got on mine. It says admin user has already been added, ready to log in, meaning that on this one here, it failed on the or die statement because the member admin had already been created. All right. If it had not been created, it would have went to the else path, and this is what you'll see the first time, which you should get an echo message that says members database successfully created. All right. So the members table again is being created on this the first time through this members query, this create table query. Once it's done on this line here, okay, and if there is no results, it's going to go to this path here, which really I don't have to go through all of this. I just did it to show you. I could actually just put in here admin user's already been added, because if this fails, then it knows that the admin user has already been added. Okay, so if no results, it's going to go to this path, which is your path to create the first path you do it to create the or insert into the database the first admin user. So this line creates the table. This line here, these lines here, 3 lines here, actually create the insert statement of the first user with the username admin, password admin. So if I look back here on the database for that, phpMyAdmin, and go in here to my database, go into members and browse, you can see that admin user that was added manually. That was actually done by the that createMembers.php page. And again, just a one-time thing. If you do run it more than once, it's not going to hurt anything. You'll just get that message that'll say in that message, admin user has already been added on that echo statement. Okay? So we've went over to index box, PHP box. This is a box that determines what's going to show on the web page, whether it's going to be this or whether it's going to be this on the top left with an HR underneath it. Okay? So that's what we went over so far. So index PHP box. PHP Box brought us to the main login.php page. We went over that. The next one we've not went over is the login success. The login success is the link you actually will see after you successfully log in to the website. The text of the link, which is this right here. And notice it says on this one, if the session is not started, it's going to start it. If no session is set, it's going to start the session. If there's no username, meaning no session called that has the username session, it has nothing in it, meaning no users logged in, it's going to redirect to the index. Else, it's going to echo out on the top of the page, which you saw on the website there. Whatever the username is going to echo out, comma, you have logged in successfully, with an ahref, a hyperlink back to the logout.php page. And let's look at that one. The logout.php page, first 4 lines of code here is PHP, does a session destroy, which destroys all, or session start, which we'll need to do a session destroy. The session destroy will destroy all known sessions for this web session. So username, passwords that have been stored. Actually, the only thing we stored in a session for this one was username and pages, the index page. So those two would be destroyed there. On the top of the web page, the index page there, you'll see for just a moment a page that says successfully logged out. It'll redirect after 3 seconds to the index.php page, and say, and that's say you have successfully logged out, and then a login link. So let me show you that one. And again, it's only there for 3 seconds. So it says you logged out successfully. It'll sit there for 3 seconds, and there we go. So let's see here. I believe we went over all of the pages, and so that concludes the week 4 and showing you how to create a database authentication that has to do with authentication, session variables, creating session variables, destroying session variables. And it's very powerful because you'll notice as you look through the pages, like the index page, the about page, and the members page, all basically have the same code after you get to line 7, actually line 10, which basically you'll notice on the index page, when you run the app the first time, you'll notice members page is gone. There's no members link, is gone. And the reason it's gone is you'll notice there's an if statement here underneath the about link that determines if the session my username, if there is no session my username, it echoes out, or if it is set, if the session is set for my username, it echoes out a link to that members page. If it's not set, that my username is not set, nothing shows up at all. And those are on the index, the about, and the members. Now technically it doesn't need to be on the members, because you remember if anybody tries to manually go to that members page, because of these 3 lines of code pointed to login success, it secures that page from anybody accessing that page. So really, if we wanted to add other pages to this website and secure them from being accessed to unless someone's logged in, we would just need to include these 3 lines of code at the top of that page. And in doing so, we would secure that page from being accessed unless they log in. So that is week 4. If you have any questions, email me. Otherwise, let's have a great week.